But there are these things that matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.
Welcome to episode 16 of the Outer Voices podcast. As always, this is your host, Keem, as well as your other host and all-around awesome person, Esmeralda D'Apollo. Esme, tell them hi.
Hey, y'all.
Oh, it's been, news-wise, it has been a crazy week.
It certainly has.
Oh my
I feel
God.
like we've been saying that since November.
Oh, yeah, I wonder why. Good God, the clown in chief, man. Let's see how many times a guy can incriminate himself and not be fired.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God, he's basically just begging somebody to just like literally kick him out at this point.
I feel like I should say that we're pulling for a record, but I bet we've crossed that point.
Oh no, we busted that
ages ago. Womp.
Good Lord. Oh, I guess with that we can go ahead and probably move into our news topics of the day. Surprisingly, they won't be. At least mine won't be directly in. Yeah, never mind.
I was going to say, speak for yourself on this one. Speak for yourself.
Do you want to take the opening news, or should I?
I will, if you want. So I am going explicitly political today, and on a national scale. I don't usually go national, because I think that local and statewide politics is more important. Well, not more important, but more effective. There's more opportunity to affect change the smaller you go. But I am going explicitly nationally political in this one, and commenting on the fact that I feel like it seems like a bad thing that we're celebrating the absolute bare minimum of what should happen, but yet here we are celebrating it, wherein the acting Attorney General Rod Rosenstein has finally officially appointed a special counsel to oversee the investigation into Russian interference in our elections. Finally, the absolute bare minimum level of independence from the White House, right? This is the bare minimum level. This isn't even fully independent of politics, right? This is the bare minimum. Special counsel has been named to investigate. So,
yay!
It's better than them trying to get somebody else who's directly nominated or directly appointed by Trump to investigate this. This is bare minimum, but at least we're like barely clearing that bar. We're finally clearing the bar.
It's crazy to me how these allegations in the beginning didn't immediately set off like full scale, thorough investigation. Like I've still yet to understand why it's taking so much to get even the bare minimum.
Right. This is exposing just how deep the like hypocrisy and there's a word I'm looking for. I don't remember the word. But just how deep this goes into the minds of people that like conservatives were up in arms about perceived corruption in Obama's administration, about perceived corruption in Clinton's campaign staff. And then when we have all these multiple like allegations, evidence, accusations, people come like being exposed as being connected to Russia, like incredibly like clear instances of like corruption and Russia interfering, and everybody's either completely silent on it or is like jumping through hoops to justify why it's not actually as bad as it seems.
Right.
Like, how do you even, like, what kind of cognitive dissonance is going on with you right now that you can do this right now? I don't understand how you can hold these two things in your head at the same time. That this thing that Trump is doing is totally okay, but if Obama or Clinton were doing the same thing, it would be cause for them to be, like, jailed, arrested, right? Prosecuted, right?
That's because the Cheeto in chief, he's the great white hope. Like, he's here. He's here to save America. So anything he or any of his administration may have done, it's for the betterment of America, even if it is giving classified information to the Russian government, which, like I said, the Cheeto in chief did. He admitted he did it.
Yes.
Like, that should be enough right there. Russia is not an ally nation.
Yeah. Ooh, did you see the latest Time magazine cover?
I didn't see it. I've heard about it.
Ooh, it's cool and freaky and cool. For those of our listeners who are not on Facebook all day long, every day, Time magazine did it's a drawing, like a almost cartoonish style drawing of the White House, but with like encroaching red bricks, like covering about half of the facade of the White House, and then on top is the onion domes of the Russian Orthodox churches. It's a thing. But yes, if you have not seen that, I encourage you to go on Facebook. I'm sure that if you type in Time Magazine, it'll come up, but it's been everywhere today. And it is a very cool image and kind of freaky, like I said.
It's just crazy. Like the very real possibility, and I can't believe I'm saying this, that the United States has, like, that Russia could have possibly installed a puppet leader in the United States. That is something that is like a movie plot.
Right?
Like, that is something that should only take place in fiction, but it's a very real, like, possibility right now.
Exactly. Also, I feel like, so I'm adding like an addendum to my news article. Like, this is like Esme's news part B. I feel like Putin is taunting us at this point. Did you see where? So everybody was all up in arms, including me, about this this meeting that Trump had. It was him and Lavrov and a Russian official, and I got all up in arms because there were pictures involved in it that came out, and it made all the headlines made it sound like there were like Russian news media was there, but the American press was not allowed in.
Right.
But apparently it was closed to all press, and the pictures were taken like by another person who was there and then sent out. So this week, if you have not seen this headline come up, after all of this uproar that happened in the United States about this meeting that American media was not allowed into, and we have no idea what happened in this meeting, Putin is now, oh so graciously, offering to release the transcripts of the meeting. Putin is offering to release the transcripts of this meeting. Leading, of course, everyone in America to speculate whether there's recordings of this meeting that the Russians apparently have that the Americans do not.
Oh my God, Putin's being petty.
Oh, mm-hmm.
He's doing some petty shit right there.
That's what I'm saying.
And this actually goes into my news story. And this is less of a news story, but it's not an article or anything. But it's a letter that was sent out by the Trump-Pence campaign about 2-3 days ago. Mm-hmm. And what it says to the campaign supporters, you already knew, and I'm stating what the letter says, you already knew the media was out to get us. But sadly, it's not just the fake news. These people are within our own unelected I have to point out that is underlined. Bureaucracy that want to sabotage President Trump and our entire America First movement. And this is bolded, Steve Bannon was right when he said, if you think they're going to give you your country back without a fight, you're sadly mistaken. Every day is going to be a fight. That is the promise of Donald Trump. They don't want it to be America first. They want it to be special interests first, to enrich themselves, all while the citizens of our country remain an afterthought. We have no choice but to completely, in all caps, drain the swamp. President Trump has already started cleaning house, but every day will be an uphill battle. We need to be prepared to go into the trenches and fight back. Also, all in caps. And that's where the email ends. And taking a look at the email and the rhetoric used, and it's very deliberate because certain things are, as I was pointing out as was going on, certain things and phrases are bolded. Certain things and phrases are all caps. This rhetoric is not the rhetoric of people looking for peace. Yeah. This is clearly trying to hype up the public. This is clearly trying to hype up their supporters to literally fight. And
yeah.
with everything,
and to fight who exactly?
Basically, everyone else.
Right.
Because I look at the words. We have to completely, in all caps, drain the swamp. So who are they drain? Who's draining the swamp? What swamp are they draining here?
Do you know who he's not draining from the swamp? Political insiders.
Yeah.
You ready for Esme's News Part C?
Go for it.
Did you hear about who he nominated to be the next U.S. ambassador to the Vatican?
Oh, God, who?
Callista Gingrich.
Oh, no.
Yes. Newt Gingrich's, I want to say, third wife, who was his mistress while he was married to his second wife.
Of course.
You know, because the sanctity of marriage, of course.
But no, it's okay. Women are disposable. Men are supposed to be able to get move in and out of women as much as they can. It's fine.
Move in and out of women. Yes.
Yeah. Also, foreshadowing future topic of discussion later on in the show. But go on.
But yes, in any case, I fail to see how how he continues to claim to be draining the swamp, considering he keeps nominating political insiders, people who gave incredible amounts of money to him, and the wives, basically the wives and family members of him and his allies. Right. You're not draining the swamp. You're stocking it with alligators.
And see, and here's the thing: this letter doesn't say Trump is going to drain the swamp. It's saying that we are going to drain the swamp, which makes it sound very much like the swamp is filled with detractors that aren't particularly just politicians and special interests. Honestly, to me, and once again, I may be reading too much or just speculative, but this sounds like a literal call to arms.
Well, I mean, no, it is. That's a pretty common rhetorical strategy for politicians, right? Is to give a call to action and make your supporters feel like they're part of something important. That's a common rhetorical strategy that people use all the time.
This brings up my question. This comes after all this week of news with Trump and last week's news with Trump and Comey, and basically these allegations, the Russian stuff becomes more and more detrimental. and it's becoming more and more clear. I mean, we had some lawmakers this week publicly on the Senate floor, I think, call for his impeachment. Now, the people have been talking about it, of course, for since he got elected, but a public, like senators publicly going in front of everyone, okay, he needs to be impeached or step down and be impeached. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And this letter really makes it seem like if that impeachment, if that happens, and he's removed from office, that they want the supporters, the people behind him, to take violent action. It's very loaded words.
Yeah.
And very deliberate words.
I mean, that's sort of been the case for this entire, ever since he announced his candidacy, right?
Right.
This has been the kind of language that he's been using, which is why we've seen such a huge uptick as he gained more and more success after the primaries and then through the election, increased rates of violence against women, against minority, racial minorities, against LGBT people. Those things noticeably increased, especially after the election.
It's absolutely horrifying. And you have groups, you have white supremacist groups and white nationalist groups who are taking actions. There was literally a march of white nationalists over the last couple of days where they were out carrying torches. And I'm from Mississippi. When white nationalists or white supremacists arrive at anybody's place carrying torches, I know that's a bad scene.
Wait, did you hear what they were protesting?
Yeah.
They were protesting the removal of Confederate statues.
It was almost like they were some kind of clan. Maybe I wish I had a clue. Anyway, but this is the type of behavior that's been rising, and from this letter, they're telling them to get worse, escalate, because if they and by they I mean the rest of us,
the liberals, the people who want people to have civil rights,
yeah,
the people who think that gay and bi people should be able to marry whoever they want to, and that women should be in control of their own bodies, and that people of color should not be killed by the police for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Sorry, if they
remove our great white hope, then it's time to fight. I worry that. And I think even some of Trump's opponents in the political spectrum may worry about this too, but I worry that what is going to happen if and when he is removed, because they're not going to take this without they're not going to take this lying down. Trump's his opponents, when he won, I mean, we took to the streets, we protested, we fought that way. Mm-hmm. But this is not the history of Trump supporters. Mm-hmm. That's not how they get things done. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got grandparents who can tell you that. Well, could if they were still alive. Yeah. Mom could have told you that. These people are, and I don't want to sound like these people, but the fervor of his followers has a history of violence.
Yes.
And they want He wants violence. They want violence. It's insane to me. So once again, it makes me wonder what's about to happen. As a historian, I see patterns, historical patterns. And with that being said, with rhetoric like this, with what's happening in the news, what's happening with the administration, the future does not look very peaceful. Mm-hmm. But that's, once again, that's just my interpretation of the situation, a la Andre 3000.
Yeah.
I hope somebody got that reference. Like if one person gets the reference I just made, comment on the video, please. I want to feel cool.
I mean, I think you're cool. You're cooler than me.
It's
the bar's not very high, though.
I was going to say, my ego is very fragile. Which brings up the topic for today. See that segue right there? I'm in it.
I see your segue, but you're forgetting about our musical spot.
Well, I'm not moving into the thing. I'm just telling everybody what our topic is for today. Because we didn't when the show opened.
Excellent.
And with that, our topic for discussion today is the effect of toxic masculinity and hypermasculinity. Why it's dangerous, what the effects it has on our society, men, women, and everything all around that.
Everyone else, right? Men, women, and everyone else.
Yeah, look, I said everyone, and I didn't say everyone, but everything all around it. Like,
stop dehumanizing people.
Okay, you got me there.
I got you there.
But they got me. They understand what I'm saying. But our topic will be hypermasculinity and toxic masculinity. With that being said, before we move on to the topic, we will have a short selection, as they say in church. I don't know, I haven't been in a while. But we have a short clip from our musical guest of the week.
So this week's musical guest is The Outcry. They're a local band here in Memphis, and I first learned about them through the work that they did, or the performance that they did last weekend with the Memphis Feminist Collective's 3rd birthday celebration. That whole event was a really, really great event. We promoted it on the show a couple weeks ago, and I purposefully sought out musicians who had been involved in this event, and The Outcry when I reached out to them, they were very, very excited to participate in this. They are a band who approaches performance as activism, and they call out bullshit in their performances, and they are awesome. So enjoy this track. This is Better Land by The Outcry.
Tell me quickly, 'cause I'm growing hoarse. What does my beloved body say to you? Am I saying that I love you? I assure you I do. But do I show you with my hands? Could you listen to my mission without these tunes? Does my body make you a better land? Could you hear me if I lost my voice? the way I give. What words are written on my hands? Sailor, does my passion transcend? Shalom, could heal me if I lost my voice? What is my beloved body say to you? All you see, my negativity. I'm just one of the children of the sun, and I'm terrified I'm not a blessing to you. Tell me what I can do to let my love shine through. I wanna get inside and grab your heart and move ya. What words are written on my hands? Say, does my passion transcend? I lost my voice. What does my beloved body say to you? Oh, what words are written on my hands? Say, does my passion transcend? Shalom, could heal me if I lost my voice? What does my beloved body say to you? Does my body make you a better land?
All right, so we hope you enjoyed our selection from our musical guest of the week. And now let us transition into toxic masculinity.
Yay! Oh, wait. Feel like we're on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Fun fact, I never have seen that. So
it's okay. You don't have to.
I didn't think that I did have to, otherwise I would have seen it already.
Oh my God. But like I said, we are talking about toxic masculinity and hypermasculinity, which honestly, our last two shows have already kind of touched on some of the issues with it. And if you do you Esme, do you care to explain to everyone what these concepts are? You're very good at that.
All right, so toxic masculinity and hypermasculinity are two really very closely related concepts, almost interchangeable, but not quite. But both of them talk about masculinity. Both of them talk about how in our culture, in American culture, masculinity is effectively equivalent to things that are aggressive, violent kinds of behaviors, right? If you've ever seen the meme that has a picture of a part of a gun, I just came across this one while I was researching for this podcast, where it has a picture of a part of a gun and says, if your boyfriend doesn't know what this is, then you have a girlfriend and you should dump him and find a real man. Right, but so equating masculinity with violence, with guns, with athleticism, with hypersexuality, with aggressive sexuality and dominance, with all of these concepts. And then also, especially with toxic masculinity, then policing masculinity and gender expression to the point where any trait that might be seen as feminine, including like expressing emotion, liking certain clothing styles or certain colors, or speaking with a certain cadence, or like wanting to wear makeup, or even like being gay and wanting to be in a relationship with another man. Like all of these things are seen as feminine and therefore bad, and therefore put you like in put the person expressing those things in a position to be physically attacked, right? Because anything that is feminine is bad and should be rooted out by any means necessary, including by physical violence. So toxic masculinity and hypermasculinity. And then this says has effects that reach all throughout society, about like how men interact with other men, how men interact with women, particularly when it comes to masculinity being equated with dominance and masculinity being equated with hypersexuality and aggressive sexuality. Those things obviously have effects on how cis men interact with cis women, and even trans men can start to fall into the traps of some of these things, like in an effort to appear more masculine, fall into the trap of demonstrating some of these behaviors, just because that is how we in America see masculinity and feel, or like culturally see that masculinity should be expressed. So any masculine person can fall in, or like masculine expressing person can fall into the traps of demonstrating these kinds of behaviors in the attempt to perform masculinity correctly in America. Right. Which brings up a concept that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, related to this concept. I want to bring it up a little bit today, but I think that it should be its own show too.
And see, and this topic has, and like before, I might get a little. I think we both are going to get a little triggered by it.
I especially am going to, based on a lot of stuff that's been going around in Memphis lately.
Right.
I'll be a little bit triggery about it. Sorry.
Sorry
if I get emotional, guys.
I was just going to give like a slight background. So, just so you know, for me, I have never been the quote unquote masculine type.
No, really?
Yeah. Well, the beard fooled everybody.
That's true. The beard is very manly.
Yeah. That's
guys, Keem has a very manly beard. Just so you know.
I do have an awesome beard. Anyone who see me should admire it and tell me I'm pretty.
You're beautiful.
Stroke my ego. Sorry. But growing up, like I said, I've never been the quote unquote masculine type. And I had particularly I used to get picked on a lot because that's what our society, breeds. At one point I started doing things to try to make myself quote unquote more of a man. I played football and other sports, which I was terrible at. To try to, do that. And I had one person in my life in particular who, besides being a downright douche nozzle, one of the major things he tried to push, and he just basically destroyed me with it every chance he could get, was I wasn't man enough, that I should do more quote-unquote man things, that I was going to grow up to be, as he would call it, a punk or weak. and all that nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
So once it kind of fucked me up. Growing up, I've gone through some things, but good now. So I mean, and once again, that's why I feel so strongly talking about this, and because I don't want to see other young men go through the same type of shit that I went through. So once again, a little background. Sorry for that moment to bring it down.
No, I mean but that goes right to the heart of what we're talking about, right? Is that young men are consistently, like from every aspect of their lives sometimes, pushed to do certain things and to have certain attitudes in order to be a man the right way.
Right.
And those things are very often be tough, right? Don't show emotion. Don't express that you are hurt. Don't, right? Like, don't appear weak. Right. All of these things. Be good at like athletics, right? Be a good athlete. And like all of these things are invariably like physical and not emotional, right?
Right.
Because having emotions is the opposite of being tough. Sorry,
yeah.
We just talked over each other.
No, it's fine. I was just saying, like, because women are emotional. That's
yes.
But that's what we're talking.
Exactly. Men are physical and logical, and women are emotional and are physically not very strong. And these two things are always opposites and are always found in people of the quote unquote opposite genders. Which is not a thing, guys. Don't buy into that, please. But yeah, and so it's just frustrating that the scope of what men should be and should do and should be good at is so limited, and that those behaviors that men should do in America has gotten to be a list of behaviors that actually really suck when they get extended out into society at large.
Yeah, it's leading to some not leading. It's causing some very horrible, destructive things. There have been so many news stories over the past 2 months. And I'm just saying 2 months, like in particular, because I'm just like overwhelmed by, I'm gonna say, of men who, when faced with losing aspects of their masculinity, do off the wall fucking crazy shit, like seeing men who, like the guy who was whose wife divorced him.
Yes.
And his response was to go into the school and shoot the wife and a child.
Oof.
Or the killer who shot the old man. Once again, he was spurned by a woman, and of course that's an affront to his manhood. So he snapped. And
I'm looking up one now that happened locally here in Memphis, and I want to look it up so that I get the details right, because it is very, very new as of like last week, and it is very, very painful. A lot of people that I know in Memphis are still reeling from this one, where a man, in retaliation from rejection from a woman, set himself on fire and then walked into a bar to find her. And several people were injured, including including her and another man who tried to stop this person before he got to her. But then, so not only did he set himself on fire and walk into this bar, he also Facebook Lived the entire event also. Right. So, and that did happen just locally here in Memphis. I know that a lot of people are still dealing with this. And at the end of the show, I'm gonna give resources related to this, including information. If you are listening and you happen to be affected and you have not yet heard about this, I know that there's an organization that is hosting a mental health group session. I believe it's this weekend, but I'm going to look that up. That's hosting a group session at Minglewood this week. I believe it's this weekend for people who were directly affected by it.
Right. And this is, it's very just terrible. It's terrible to see that because of the way we treat masculinity in this country, and straight cis men think that we are entitled as a man, quote unquote. I wish somebody could see my air quotes right now.
That would be very handy.
Yeah. We are entitled to women. So rejection itself is almost, I would say, in the way we do things, the two biggest hits to the fragility of this toxic masculinity is rejection from a woman, mm-hmm. and implication of homosexuality. Mm-hmm. Those are the two big things that seem to trigger so many people. Wasn't there another guy in Memphis at the zoo where there was a large somebody got hit, a big fight in the zoo over someone implied that he was a homosexual?
I don't remember hearing about that, but it does not surprise me at all.
Yeah. Which brings me, and that especially brings me to what kind of set me off. This is my set off of the day, thing that set me off. So, and we're going to go back to the other things, but it just flew right out of me. The thing that's set me off today was 2-3 days ago, one of these, I think it's Reebok, came out with something they're referring to as rump hymns.
Oh, well, I heard that term earlier, or I saw that term on Facebook earlier, and that's the first time I've heard it out loud, and it is just ridiculous. It's
so ridiculous. But they are male rumpers.
Also, they totally missed the opportunity, as multiple people on Facebook have pointed out, to call them brompers.
Yes, brompers.
Is way less weird, but also still weird.
But good
anyway.
Lord. I mean, dumb names aside.
Also, I'm gonna go ahead and insert my objection to this, which is the ers in rompers isn't hers with an H, right? That's not where that word comes from. So their changing of the word makes zero sense at all. But that's
I have an article that I'm going to bring up that very much addresses that. So addresses something similar to that. But the response from my circle of influence and Facebook and all my social media from straight males, especially black males, was...
Ooh, cishet black dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. I mean, not surprising, but interesting.
Was that... first, it was ridicule. And it was ridicule because basically they said that this was... Rumpers are women's things. And any man who wears this shouldn't be considered a real man, basically. And all the jokes went on, making fun of it, saying they were said this is feminine. This is feminine. The second reaction was, of course, saying that these male rumpers are homosexual, because obviously, if you wear something that's meant for a woman, air quotes all over the place, then obviously you're homosexual. Because that's how that works.
I mean, totes, right?
Yeah.
Also, because, like, expression of any kind of gender is obviously the same as your sexual orientation.
Yeah,
obviously.
Right. And also, of course, homosexual men aren't real men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Also, feminine expression is a bad thing.
Terrible. Femme people are the worst and to be avoided. Do not ever appear like a femme person.
Because masculinity is the ultimate pinnacle. It is the best. It is the sun in which the earth revolves. If you are not the pinnacle masculine male, then you're nothing.
Worse than nothing. Worse than nothing. You're like a woman.
Oh, yeah. That's...
Worse than nothing.
I mean, I've heard of rock bottom, but right on the rock bottom, there's a woman.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Good Lord. It's very, oh my God. And I responded, because I've been seeing it everywhere. I responded, of course, on social media with a thing I put, and it about just saying how ridiculous that concept is, that this item of clothing basically lowers a man's status because of some bullshit ideas.
Yeah.
And man, that pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
Man, I called, pardon my French, man, that caused a lot of niggas to act a fool for a second.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing how one little article of clothing can challenge somebody's entire conception of what being a man is.
Right.
What?
And here's the funny thing. And this comes along with a article from out.com. Mm-hmm. And the article is Reebok caves to fragile masculinity, releases romper for bros, in quotes. But the marketing, rompers, really, people have been wearing, like, men have been wearing rompers since for the 70s. You look at disco attire, it's the same thing.
It's like bell-bottom rompers.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Like, I was laughing earlier. It's like a lot of these dudes making fun of men wearing rompers. Man, that's probably what your daddy was wearing when he picked up your mama. Your daddy was fly as hell in them rompers, and y'all wasn't saying shit. But I digress. Like, it's been a thing, you know.
Yeah.
But since I don't know how long, it's been considered a woman thing. Rompers it's women's clothing.
It's really... Oh, you go.
Oh. Then, and this is also coming from the article from Out. Reebok noticing a trend of men wearing them again, because it has been there has been a growing trend of like celebrity men, especially black men in like sports and stuff, wearing them.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, and in hip hop, and it's because the like hip hop and the sports industries have started moving more into the fashion industry.
Mm-hmm. But also, I wonder if it's because hip hop culture, as it exists today in America, and athletics, professional athletics, are two of the most hyper-masculine places for black men to exist.
Oh, yeah.
So they can offset that hypermasculinity by doing things that would otherwise be considered feminine and get away with it because they're so masculine in their profession.
Which has already been, once again, in the black community, has already been causing some serious issues.
Yes.
Because I am constantly bombarded with things talking about this rapper here, this sports star here is trying to sway young men to be gay because he wore something with flowers on it.
I mean, no, but okay, no.
And so, listeners out there, anybody seen the Boondocks? Go watch the Story of Gangstalicious Part 2 to get what I'm talking about. Go watch the Story of Gangstalicious Part 2. That's all I'm going to say.
Unfortunately, it's not on Netflix anymore. I'm so sad.
Okay. Go find it anywhere. Go find it.
Anywhere.
The second Gangstalicious episode. But it's caused some major, like I said, major problems. Because, like, black men have been up in arms against these rappers who are trying to destroy black men and further the quote-unquote gay agenda. I love the gay agenda. Because no one can explain it. But from Out.com was showing how Reebok, because Reebok is of course big big company especially when it comes to sports. Mm-hmm. Reebok goes, okay, well, we see these sports stars wearing rompers, okay? However, we want to start selling them. But we cannot market a romper because it's a woman's thing to men. But let's call it a rump him. So we make it, we take something that the society has deemed feminine and womanly, don't change it really, but give it a masculine name and it's fine.
That makes no sense. It makes no sense.
It literally makes no sense. Nothing.
Okay, so why these are imaginary hoops, right? Mm-hmm. We're jumping through completely made up hoops that don't actually change anything, but that somehow make something okay for these people's fragile masculinity, that now we can market this to men. Sure.
Right.
I'm going to have a whole topic of conversation at some point about gendered marketing, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, that makes no sense. Nothing has changed. Nothing substantial changed, except that they changed the name to make it seem less feminine. They had to put the word him in it. And so now it sounds masculine, more masculine, and now it's acceptable. Obviously.
Right. It blows my mind. and once again, it may be because I'm not, quote unquote, a masculine man, but I don't get it. Like, I used to have these same issues. I would have been one of the guys going, man, that's woman shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not, because I know better. But, and this is going to be speaking to black males, black, straight, cis men.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where I come from. That's what I am. These sorts of, like, this sort of, like, masculine concept is, one, very much a product of slavery. The idea of the hyper-masculine black man is very much like we have the men, like, hyper-masculinity as a concept throughout our society, but in black men especially, it is very much a product of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wanted you to be able to work, first of all, and you had to be you needed to be athletic and strong. They wanted you to be able to breed, so you needed to go out and bed as many women as possible, because they needed more workers.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they didn't want you to be intelligent either, because intelligence made you weak.
Mm-hmm.
And it also made you think and want to get free. And we continue to reproduce these same things that literally made us valuable. We seek out opportunities in things, in avenues in life that highlight these things. But it's literally killing black men.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I was saying to Esme earlier, before we even started this, hyper-masculinity and the focus on it for black men is probably the largest killer of black men in the U.S. outside of racism.
Yeah.
Because, once again, we go out and seek it. We go out and do stupid shit. Put our lives and our bodies at risk to fill out a concept that is dangerous and a product of slavery. I was talking about this too. There's a song by Immortal Technique, and it's very similar to, if any of you have read Native Son and the story of Bigger Thomas, which is of course fictional, but it has a point. It's very telltale of, I can't remember the name of the song, or what it's called, but it's the story of a young man who is living in a poor neighborhood, and he looks up to these, what he considers real men, and it's local drug dealers and bangers who go out and, you know, pick up women and sell drugs or whatever. Do the things that in that community means you're a real man. And honestly, very much, as a side note, in the black community, there are only a few professions where you are considered men. Like, you can either be a athlete or musician, or you can be a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, or you can be a gangbanger or a drug dealer. That's all you can be.
Yeah.
If you're anything else, you're not a man. You're not a or a mechanic. Sorry, got there are mechanics out there. You can be a mechanic. That's it. That's all you can be in the black community to be considered a man. But in the song, he sees these bangers, and these are what they consider man. They out there doing manly things, like they're, picking up women and whatever. And he's trying to prove himself, prove that he's a real man too. So he escalates, starts selling different types of drugs, start doing these different type of horrible things, to the point where it goes, where they go, well, you can do all these things, but to prove you're a real man, to prove you're a real G, you have to rape. You have to go rape someone. So this guy goes out with these other men. They grab a woman off the street, beat her and rape her. And then they tell him to kill her. And the guy is so horrified about what he has done to prove how much of a man he is that he jumps off the building they're on and kills himself.
Oof.
That story is horrifying, but it's also based on reality.
Mm-hmm.
The ideas that are infecting young black men's minds on what a man should be is literally killing them.
Mm-hmm.
Causing them to go out and do things, dumb things, and it may not be as extreme as that, but it may be carrying a weapon to prove how bad you are. It may be going out and sleeping with numerous women to show, how you get around, that you're a player. Yes, I said player. I know I don't know what the words the young kids use for a days now, but like to prove it, and producing children that you can't take care of.
Mm-hmm.
Or even going out and not focusing, like when you're in school, not focusing on your actual studies to be a sports star.
Yeah.
Or a rapper. And when that fails, you have nothing to fall back on.
Yeah.
Like the black community is so imperiled by these concepts that it's making us lose any, like, the opportunities we need to actually excel.
Mm-hmm.
But music, media, everything continues to play back into the toxic masculinity. It continues to push it, continues to say, this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do. And it boggles my mind. Even you're not even allowed to be intelligent. And you're not allowed to like I'm a nerd. I make I don't hide that at all. I'm a big ass nerd.
That is very true.
You ask me some shit about Captain America, I can tell you the man's whole background, But I created a group for black nerds to try to give that some support, because it is so looked down. It still is looked down upon in the black community for young men and women, but in this case, young men, to like things that are considered nerdy, to like video games that aren't Madden and NBA 2K17.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm I'm very vocal about this, because once again, this is where I'm from. These are my people. It's killing us. It is killing us.
So one of the things that you said earlier, and you actually just circled back around to it, so you saved me the trouble, is one of the aspects of black hypermasculinity is like this shunning of like intelligence, right? But one of you brought that around and attributed it to slavery, which makes complete sense, right? Like that was the ideal of a black man under slavery was somebody who was very strong, very fertile, and not smart enough to understand what was understand the oppression and the horrible way that he was being treated enough to fight it.
The bull or mandingo, you know.
Yes, as you will. But I just, as you were talking about that, I saw the flip side of it. Because unsurprisingly, I am white, and I see more of, or at least throughout most of my life, have seen the aspect of white hypermasculinity, which is hyper-rational. Right? White hypermasculinity is puts forth that men are logical, right? Men are logical and intelligent, and women are emotional and intuitive. And therefore, when it comes to, like, men are more intelligent, and men can be relied upon more in intellectual things, to the point where if a woman expresses that her feelings were hurt, or that she felt a particular way, or couches any of her own experience in emotion, men who are white men who have succumbed to this toxic masculinity will then use under the guise of being logical, then proceed to like gaslight women into thinking that no, this wasn't actually what you experienced, right? Like, actually, this is what happened, but your feminine emotions are getting in the way of you seeing what actually happened.
Right.
Which is a really, really clear gateway to, it's a very good, very clear partner to like sexual assault, especially like really insidious kinds of domestic partner assault, where there's nothing physical being done necessarily, but like emotional abuse and like financial abuse and all of these things.
Right.
Where the woman, as soon as she starts expressing that she is not comfortable with a situation, is then gaslighted by her male partner, and so like it's just different facets of the same thing, right? But then it becomes this feeds into that same hierarchy that we have, like cis het white maleness, right?
Right.
This feeds into the whole strata. It's not just gender differences, perceived gender differences, right? Like this toxic masculinity, and abhorrence of anything feminine, but also feeds into like the racist stratification of the United States, wherein white men are seen as logical and dominant and should be in charge of everything, and there's a hierarchy underneath cishet white dudes for everybody else.
Right. Which and that brings me back to something. There's also a stigma of black men that, one, you're not supposed to have emotion, but the one emotion you can have is anger.
Yes.
I remember I think it was a football player from Mississippi State University, was, I think, arrested for a domestic disturbance, where he hit a young woman. And when it was brought up about what it was done, I think it was the coach, or one of the coaches or something, reply was, "It's not a big deal. It's a part of their culture."
Ugh. Oh, no.
So abuse is a part of black culture. Black men just are abusive. It's part of being a black man.
That's excusing domestic partner violence By dehumanizing both women and black men.
Yes. Black men are supposedly angry, violent creatures, but that's just what we are. That's what makes a black man a black man. Like,
that makes me so upset. Oh my God. And here I am succumbing to my feminine emotions again.
Right. Just terrible. See, this is why it's so bad to be a woman. You're getting upset. Look how upset you are.
I'm so upset. You don't even know. I live in a permanent place of upset.
Oh my God! But see, that's the dumb shit.
Or maybe I'm expressing my masculine emotions because my predominant emotion these days is anger.
Oh yeah.
I apologize for the yelling for those of you who just had their eardrums blasted out because I just yelled at my microphone. I don't want to hurt our listeners. I don't. Right. I'm sorry. I do want to express how angry I am. Everything that is happening in the world right now. It's not acceptable, guys. It's not acceptable. But
it's, oh my God. But yeah, no. These are things. Like these are things that we have to fix. And what makes it even worse is that when it's brought up, and I'm sure if this podcast is pretty small right now. Yes. If it was bigger, we'd get more flack for this whole show.
That's probably true.
But anytime it's even brought up that this country has a problem with toxic masculinity, that the way we see the way men are being like formed in this country, the way masculinity has been formed in this country is dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's met with ridicule.
Yeah.
That people speaking out against this, that's something that's literally killing people, male and female, and hurting people. Mm-hmm. That they are trying to turn, they're saying they're trying to turn men into women or making men gay. There's an article from Todd Starnes at Fox News, which reads, "Toxic masculinity. Dude, now America's universities are turning men into women." And in the article, it goes on about how many universities are teaching classes and programs on masculinity, on the dangers of toxic masculinity, telling people how to engage, how to confront this problem, and how to fix it. Yeah. And I want to read a few lines from this. One line says, "Could you imagine the greatest generation flitting about town after a spa and dishing about their innermost thoughts with life coaches. In today's re-engineered version of manhood, guys no longer have friends. They have bromances, and they settle disputes by hugging it out. So, showing affection towards another male is bad. Obviously. You can't show affection towards another male.
Nope.
And to settle a dispute peacefully is also bad.
Yes, obviously.
And the end of it, and this goes back to our discussion on Milo Yiannopoulos, whatever. I'm just gonna make up a last name for him. This week he's Milo Yiannopoulos. About how male feminists were, the word beta cucks came up. This this column writer says, a few years ago I conducted a unscientific poll because he wants to make sure it's unscientific.
I mean, at least he did that, right? Like he could have proposed it as like a scientific poll, and then he thought it fooled us into thinking that he was like doing actual things.
You got to remember, this is from Fox News, so this is done for spite because science and intellectualism is bad.
Yes.
So specifically, an unscientific poll to determine what the average woman looks for in a man. The poll, this is what the guy says. The poll results were not that surprising at all. Ladies want a man who loves God and loves his family. They also want a man who, in no particular order, has a job, drives a pickup truck, uses the bathroom standing up, eats meat, and is willing to carry them out of a burning building. In other words, they want the kind of man made in God's image, not the image of some effeminate intellectual stuffed in skinny jeans, sipping chai tea with his pinky finger extended. First of all, that's a country song if I ain't never heard it.
I mean, yeah, maybe. Oh my God.
Secondly, motherfucker, I love chai tea.
Because chai tea is goddamn delicious.
Fucking delicious.
Although I'm a femme person, and so I'm allowed to say that.
Oh yeah, you're fine, but man, I will sip me on some tea. Hell.
And I said this when you brought this up to me before we started recording, that there's a special place in my heart for effeminate intellectuals in skinny jeans. I mean, I'm just saying. I know many of them, and they're some of my favorite people in the world. It's just a thing.
Well, I'm gonna pass on the skinny jeans, but
well, that's because you would look ridiculous in skinny jeans.
Also, it would hurt, but. I digress. I would look like a lollipop.
I mean, you're not wrong.
But it's just amazing to me. Like this guy's definition of a man, and the definition of so many people, is just ridiculous.
Also, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, as a femme person, I have never talked, guys, men who are listening to this podcast, rest assured, I have never, ever once in my entire life heard any of my femme friends express any kind of opinion about how you use the bathroom. Just so you know. We're not thinking about it. It's a thing. You do you.
Look, my God. Officially. Also, and I like to bring up another point, another thing that I really didn't think of. Being a man also requires you being a follower of God.
Oh, Jesus! No pun intended. I think
that even in the black community, a man goes to church. And even if he doesn't go to church, he will go to church twice a year. Easter and Christmas. Mm-hmm. He believes in God. One of the biggest things that I've had a problem with, and even in like dating within the black community, with such big ties in religion, especially, that once it comes out that I'm an atheist, I'm no longer a man. Mm-hmm. That's it. I'm counted out. I am counted out.
I feel like we're sort of veering into the territory of another show.
It is another show, but I'm just saying.
Let's save that one for another show.
I mean, that's crazy. Like we're talking about aspects of masculinity. That's one to even think of. Mm-hmm. That nobody really puts together. But yes, like atheists and people who aren't particularly like religious, like men who aren't particularly religious, don't get to count as men either.
Yes. But let's save this one for another show because we are pushing way up on our time limit.
Yeah, we are.
There's so many things to talk about with toxic masculinity and hypermasculinity and gendered aspects and gendered stereotypes and what it means to be a particular gender and to perform a particular gender in the United States that I expect that we will spread this out over many shows.
Yeah,
many shows.
I'm going to say this now. This is going to be one of our base topics. Like, we're going to extend this out for a bit because
I'm going to insist because I can talk about gender for a long ass time, guys. I don't know if you know. I can talk about gender forever.
There are some people there are some other people that I would like to bring in to also bring this up because I would like to get some a bit of this has been me coming from straight cis black male POV.
Yes.
But I really want to get some views from maybe some homosexual men.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
Because I've seen some things like as in the past like 2-3 years as I've become more involved in LGBTQ communities and the things that are going on. I've noticed some things. I've read some articles and toxic masculinity, like coming from this, like my point of view, like this is what you got. But I've seen some things in the gay community and concept of masculinity that are really interesting that should be talked about.
Yes.
So I'm hoping to get some people on for that.
Yes. So many more shows, guys, is what we're saying.
Right.
Many more shows.
We didn't even cover like how it affects trans people. Because that's also a huge thing.
Yes. In any case.
Yeah. Sorry.
In any case.
We're gonna end this segment. If you would like to, once again, want to talk about it more, and if anyone out there listening wants to, pitch in, like, contact us.
Yes.
We have discussions, and we can work on a later show and on later dates, because this is a subject that is very, very important, not just in general, but to us, both of us.
Yes, in particular.
So we are going to talk about this more because this needs discussion. So you want to add anything else, Esme?
Not at the moment, I think. Let's save the rest of these conversations for other shows.
Right. So I guess with that, we're going to have another clip from our wonderful musician, and move on into Esme's wonderful, wonderful sex segment.
Stay tuned, guys. We're talking about toys.
Playtime. All right.
And I got to know what change is coming before we suffocate. Raise your voice for Ferguson, Keystone, Monsanto, Guantanamo. Victim shaming, religion blaming, propaganda flaming. We're wearing old clothes with the tonals, and every day somebody new knows and stands to demand equality, rising up against the oligarchy, unconstitutionalized war crimes, genocide. Just because I am white, don't you know I have more privilege? And the list goes on and on and on, and on and on and on, and on and on and on. But I have enough hope to write this song, 'cause I got to know.
Thanks again to our great musical guests this week, The Outcry. Like I said, they're located here in Memphis. If you are enjoying their music, please check out their Facebook page. They're at The Outcry 901. Or check out their website at theoutcry.co. And if you are located in Memphis or near Memphis, stay tuned to either of those places, because I have it on good authority that we are going to be seeing a lot more from this band as far as shows go throughout this summer. So stay tuned and keep your ear to the ground for some awesome shows from these people. And with that, guys, it is time to talk about sex. First off, I do want to apologize for last week. I was not as on my game as I wanted to be, and so I don't think that I did the concept of consent as much justice as I should have done it. So we will be revisiting consent again in the very near future, because I ended the recording and immediately thought of some things that I should have said in my 101 level consent episode. So we will be revisiting that soon. I also believe that I I promoted this episode's sex segment by saying something about sex toys and why you need them. Guys, you may or may not need sex toys. I'm not here to tell you that you need sex toys, but I am here to tell you that sex toys can be extremely fun and can add a lot of amazing variety and new sensations and new experiences into your sex life if you're open to experimenting with them. So many people that I've talked to recently can attest that I will literally talk about sex toys to anyone at any time. And I could turn this into an entire episode on its own of just me ranting to you about sex toys, but I'm not going to do that because this is the last segment and not an entire episode.
Guys, feel lucky she can't whip out the pictures of her collection.
I have pictures, guys. There's pictures. I've pulled out pictures to people the first time that I met them. It's a thing. Anyway, so what I want to do today with this is, I want to first outline some of the major categories of sex toys for those of you who are not familiar with them. I'm going to give you a brief, very, very brief introduction to what body-safe toys are. So that you don't immediately go out and buy yourself something that is not going to be good for you. But mostly what I want to do today is to talk to you about why you should be open to using sex toys, even if you have never considered it before. So to start us off, there are an incredible, especially in the last 10 years, there's an incredible variety of toys out there. There are toys for any kind of thing that you might want to do to your body, right? So there's insertables of varying shapes and sizes and textures and densities and materials. There's silicone, there's glass, there's metal, there's wood, there's everything. Everything that you could possibly want to put in your body, it probably exists or somebody is developing it somewhere. There are insertable vibrators. There are non-insertable vibrators. There are anal safe toys. Guys, an anal safe toy has a base, is first off full, you can sanitize it, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. But also it has a significant base on it. Because your butt likes to pull things up into it, and you don't want your sexy times to end in the emergency room, I'm pretty sure. So make sure that your anal toy has a base on it. There are insertable vibrators that are generally larger, or are curved to hit the G-spot or the prostate. There are non-insertable vibrators that are typically egg-shaped and or bullet-shaped. There are toys for penises. Some of them they call them masturbators or strokers, which it's right there in the name. There's cock rings. There's impact toys. There's bondage toys. There's all kinds of toys. There are a million different things. I encourage you guys. I'm gonna throw some links down into the comments or into the episode information at the bottom, places that I have found you can get good, reliably safe, reasonably priced toys from different places. Even though we're not affiliated, I have a passion for informing people and pointing people in places where they can get good toys. I don't know if you can tell how excited I am to be talking to you guys about this. So I'm gonna give you guys some links so that you know where to go to check out the incredible variety of toys that exist in this world for basically anything that you want to do to your body. We'll go into more detail about those in later episodes. I am sure. I will insist. It's a thing. very briefly, I want to touch on body safe toys. Guys, there are things that are not okay for you to be putting on or in your body. Any toy that says jelly on it, you don't want that in your body. Sorry. There's two different kinds of toys that are bad for you. The worst is toys that are actually toxic, right? Many toys, especially jelly type toys, contain phthalates, which interfere with reproductive hormones. There are some that contain actual toxic chemicals. There's no regulation at all in what goes into sex toys. And manufacturers can claim anything that they want to. So even if it says silicone on it, if it doesn't say that it's like 100% pure silicone or platinum cure silicone, be very, very wary about it. I'm also going to put you a link to dangerouslily.com. I'm going to actually link you directly to her. She has a whole post about which manufacturers are actually using 100% pure silicone as per her tests. And it goes into her whole testing process about which toys are actually pure silicone. So manufacturers can label anything that they want to. So be very, very careful when you're purchasing things. If it's a transparent material, it is not 100% silicone. It does not matter what is on the label. Clear silicone is cloudy. It is not crystal clear. If it's labeled jelly or Silagel, or there's a bunch of different ones, it is probably full of stuff that's not good for your body, right? Like these things can be actually toxic. They can interfere with your hormones. There's anecdotal evidence that they can cause chemical burns on your bits. You guys, you don't want chemical burns on your bits.
No one likes burned bits.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want chemical burns on your junk. So be very careful when it comes to that. The other kind of material that's not necessarily body safe is porous materials. Porous materials, they're not toxic for you, but they do harbor bacteria. It's impossible to sterilize something. So you want to, if you have something that's made of TPE, is the most common one. A lot of strokers are made of TPE. A lot of cock rings and stuff are made with TPE. Some dildos and vibrators are made with are made with or coated with TPE. It's a very soft material. It's very, very stretchy. It's not toxic for you, but you cannot sanitize it. So if it's an insertable toy, especially if you intend to use it with not just on yourself, but with partners, slap a condom on that thing. If it's a stroker or a masturbator or a cock ring, save that for just the one person, right? Don't be sharing that around, especially if it comes into contact with anybody's fluids. And be aware that with a TPE toy, you're going to want to replace that more frequently than you would a silicone, right? Silicone toys can be boiled or thrown in the dishwasher and completely sanitized. They can be dunked in bleach and sanitized so they are safer to share with people. But the thing that I really, so that's my very basic, 100 remedial level, sex toy information. But the thing that I really, really wanted to talk to people about today is being open to using sex toys. So I thought that this was a very cis-het dude kind of concept to encounter, but I had a conversation just a few weeks ago with a woman who's in a relationship with a trans man and still is encountering these same kinds of attitudes in her relationship where they don't use toys because, and to use her words, my partner is enough for me. And I'm like, that's not a thing, right? That's not why you use toys. Toys exist to provide you with sensations that are different from what your partner can provide you with their parts, right? Whether that part is no matter what that part is, right? Human beings have a set number of parts that come standard, And toys get included to provide sensations that are different from what like biological parts can provide, right? I have had a lot of really satisfying sex with a lot of very awesome people, but I've never yet had somebody whose bits vibrate. Like, I'm just saying.
And if they do, that might be a sign of a serious medical condition, so you might want to get out of there.
That's what I'm saying. Right. So there's a lot of different reasons to use sex toys, and it's totally legitimate if you have never had sex with a person who was able to get you off without some kind of aid, right? I had some very mediocre sex, very, very mediocre sex before I came up with a partner who was able to listen to me and figure out exactly like how to touch me in this way or that way or whatever way to get me off. Right? It was tricky to get me off without any of that. And then finally, like when I started including toys, particularly toys that vibrate, suddenly it's much, much easier to get me off. Like, so it's not that my partner is not enough for me. It's just that particular sensation makes it easier for me to get off. I have more satisfying sex when I'm having sex with people who are open to including toys, particularly in my case, toys that vibrate. Like there's so many different things out there, right? If you need very intense G-spot or prostate stimulation to get off, that's not always achievable when you're having sex with somebody who has like a biological like penis, just because of the angle that everything is at. It's extremely difficult to get things angled up into the right places when you're having partnered sex with somebody. So have your partner use a toy on you, right? It's not less intimate just because it's not attached to their body, like biologically. That doesn't make it less. It's just different. So be open to things. I came up with, so there's a TED Talk that's out there, and I'm looking it up because I don't remember the name of the person who did it. Wait a second. Al Vernaccio. It's Al Vernaccio. He has a TED Talk out there. I'm going to link it in the comments, called Sex Needs a New Metaphor. And he says that the metaphor of baseball sucks, right? Because sex is there's a winner and a loser, and somebody's playing offense and somebody's playing defense. And it's overall, I'll let him explain it. Go watch the TED Talk. It's about 8.5 minutes long. But instead of the metaphor of baseball, he proposes the metaphor of pizza, right? Where the impetus for sex comes from an internal like stimulation, and then if you're having if you're eating pizza with another person, suddenly you have a negotiation about, well, I like this on my pizza, well, I like that on my pizza, so like what can we order that will satisfy both of us? And I, in a flash of brilliance, extended this to sex toys, right? Wherein having sex with another person with no sex toys is like saying, well, okay, I can have cheese pizza, or I can have pepperoni, or I can have sausage. And I don't need any other kinds of pizza because those kinds of pizza should be enough for me, right? Those should be able to satisfy me. And so I shouldn't want any other kind of pizza. Which, guys, that makes no goddamn sense. That makes no sense.
Right.
Right? Like, I'm not saying it's bad to only like cheese pizza, right? If you only like cheese pizza, all right, that's good for you. That's fine. That's excellent. But don't attach some kind of value judgment to only having one particular kind of sex that involves no toys because you think you should, right? Don't only have these limited kinds of sex because you think you should, because you think your partner's bits should be enough for you, enough to satisfy you. I'm not saying that the sex that you have is bad, right? I'm not saying that you can't have extremely satisfying sex without toys, because you can. What I'm saying is that not needing toys because your partner is enough for you, that's not a thing.
Right.
That's not a thing. It's not a matter of enough. It's a matter of variety and different sensations. And if you don't crave those different sensations and you don't think that you don't like those differences. Like, not everybody likes pineapple on their pizza, right? That's fine. Nobody says you have to. But don't attach a value to not liking pineapple on your pizza, right?
You're gonna cause a that statement.
Say what?
You're gonna cause a war with that pineapple on the pizza statement.
I don't care. I don't care.
Do you mind if I add one thing to with your segment here?
Please do.
And this goes along with our talk about toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Men,
mm-hmm.
and just because you partner wants a toy, would like to introduce toy into the scenario, or you use a toy, it does not make you less of a man, quote unquote. It doesn't make you less of a person. It doesn't mean you're inadequate. It doesn't.
It just means that your partner wants a sensation that's different from what your naturally biological parts provide. That's what it means.
It's like hell. It's like your partner asking for oral sex when you've just been doing, in the straight case, P and V. Like, it doesn't mean your P and V isn't good or inadequate.
It doesn't mean that your P's not great, guys.
Right.
It doesn't mean that. It just means that your partner wants something else to get off. Nobody said that the same thing that gets you off, it has to be the same thing that gets your partner off. That's not a thing. Everybody needs different things.
Getting different sensations to get you off does not. It's not a reflection on your ability.
Exactly. Also, here's one that's going to challenge a lot of people's masculinities. I think maybe, right? When you're dealing with like heterosexual partnered sex, right? Like a cis man and a cis woman. There's even once you start getting into, okay, let's bring a toy in, right? The focus is almost exclusively on toys that vibrate, because that's a very clear, like, my parts don't do this, and so let's bring one of these in, right? Especially the cute little vibrators that fit nicely between the bodies. That's great, right? I've had a lot of success with those. They're amazing. I've got some that I could recommend if anybody's interested. But it does not matter. Cis dudes, it does not matter what kind of toy your partner wants to bring in. There are some really great, like, huge ones. There's some very large, like, metal and glass concoctions that exist in this world. And even if your partner wants to bring in one of these, like, 2.25-inch diameter, like, stainless steel doolollies, does not mean one single thing about you and your manhood. It doesn't. It doesn't, right? It doesn't mean that your partner wishes that your cock were bigger. It doesn't mean that you're not enough to satisfy your partner. It doesn't mean that. It just means that your partner at that moment is craving a sensation that's different, right? That's all it means. It doesn't mean that you're not enough to satisfy. Maybe your partner would really appreciate you using that on her, or them, or him, or whatever your partner's pronouns are, right? It doesn't mean anything about your masculinity. It just means that your partner wants a different sensation than what you can provide with your body, right? That's all it means.
I was saying, like, I'll tell you, I'll say, me personally, on a very personal level, I very much enjoy, as a man, busting out a glass toy and watching what happens. It doesn't need my biological part to even be involved.
That's what I'm saying, right? And bringing in a toy just because. So I feel like this is again with the toxic masculinity now with regards specifically to sex, right? There's a narrative that says that first off that PIV, which implies a cis man and a cis woman having sex, first of all, which not all sex involves a cis man and a cis woman, but that PIV is the only thing that counts as sex, right? Which feeds back into this idea that sex is a masculine thing and should be done for the pleasure of the man. But, guy, that's not what sex is. That's not what sex should be. That's not what sex can be. Sex can be better than that, right? Sex should be about two people, or one person, or three, or four, or more people, whatever. Sex should be about people interacting with each other in ways that make their bodies and their minds and their hearts feel good, right? That's not saying that you have to be in love with the people that you have sex with, but it should be something that makes your whole self feel good, ideally, right? And sometimes that involves both parties, like, feeling good at the same time, like, having, like, PIV or whatever, like, having their erogenous zone stimulated at the same time. Sometimes it involves that. But I feel like one thing that would be really important in busting down this toxic masculinity is breaking down the idea that every sex act has to be equally stimulating to both partners, right? It's not sex just because you're using a toy on your partner, or you're watching your partner use a toy on themselves, or your partner is using a toy on you, or you're both watching each other masturbate. Like, all of those things are sex, right? There's many things that are sex, and not all of them involve direct stimulation of both people's genitals at the same time. In fact, many of them don't. In fact, most of the most satisfying sex I've had has had like an alternating sort of dynamic where one person's parts are being stimulated at a time. And that's good. That's okay, guys. That's okay. Anyway, sex toys. Sex toys can be really, really great. And go look them up and go see what kind of variety there is and go look at pictures of things and imagine how it would feel on or in or around your junk. And think, if you have a regular partner in your life, imagine your partner using it on you, or imagine you using it on your partner, and see how these kinds of things might fit into your sex life as it exists now, and see if you might be open to exploring, especially if you not have ever been interested in exploring that because of this idea that your partner's bits should be enough for you. Think about and imagine yourself being open to the possibility of using toys with your partner, because there's a whole other world of possible sensations for you to explore, and it makes no sense to not explore that because you think you shouldn't, right? If you try it and you're not into the sensation, that's fine, but don't avoid trying just because you think that you shouldn't need these things. You shouldn't want these things. That makes no sense, and it's an incredibly limiting way to think about sex. And that's my speech.
That was a good speech.
Thank you. I spend a lot of time talking about sex toys, can you tell?
And something tells me we're going to get a lot more discussion on sex toys.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And more than likely, if I know you, which I think I do, not to pat myself on the back or anything, but probably some recommendations or reviews might also be happening in the future.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can tell, like Esme's mind is already, I can feel the gears turning already.
I mean, well, yeah. You can feel it long distance, all the way from where you are.
I can.
Anyway.
And I'm excited to get to it more.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But I ranted about sex toys for way longer than I meant to, so.
I knew that was going to happen.
Well, yes. Obviously.
Well, with that, I think we're going to end the show. Esme, what we usually throw out some links to for people to visit. What would you like to give our listeners today?
All right. So for all the cis dudes out there who are wondering what the heck we're talking about with toxic masculinity and who are all up in arms about, well, does that mean that I'm bad just for being a man? I recommend that you go check out the Good Men Project at goodmenproject.com. It's a blog that was started by somebody as a way to offer advice in how to be a man and traditionally masculine things while actively combating toxic masculinity and hypermasculinity and the kind of negative societal impacts that those have, right? Living in a culture of toxic masculinity doesn't mean that you're a bad man. And it doesn't, or being a man doesn't mean that you're bad because you grew up in this. But check this out as a resource for you as a man to think about and combat and live with and live within a culture of this toxic masculinity and to work against that culture while still being a man. Guess what? You can do it. Also, we didn't really touch much on transgender issues, but if you are experiencing violence or discrimination, especially at your workplace, for either your sexual orientation or your gender identity or gender expression, that includes even if you are a cis person who just happens to like expressing yourself in ways that are not conforming, right? You don't have to identify as trans, but if you're experiencing discrimination because of perceived like gender expression things, check out Lambda Legal at lambdalegal.org. That's LAMBDA legal.org. They're an organization that does legal advocacy specifically around LGB and transgender identities or gender nonconforming people or gender expression issues. And they have a whole section of resources for you as well as possible advocacy. So check that out. I mentioned earlier that I would post information about counseling resources for people who were affected by the tragedy at Murphy's Bar. But I just realized that that's happening before we're going to post this episode. So I'm going to just put that straight on the Facebook page so you will already see that when this episode gets posted. And for those of you who are interested in exploring the absolutely incredible variety of sex toys that are out there and looking into what those might be, I'm just going to recommend that you check out shevibe.com. It's just like it sounds, shevibe.com. They have incredible selection. They're very good about having body safe materials, and they are some of the consistently best priced toys that I have found out there. They often have good deals on toys, as well as just having consistently low prices all across their site. So check them out. They also are very good at advocating for ethical practices in the sex toy industry, as well as body safe materials. So check them out. What do you got, Keem?
I actually didn't have anything today. I figured you blow us out the water, honestly. And you did. Mm-hmm. So I very much appreciate it. We'll have links to some of the articles that we spoke about. Also in the description will be posted for you to go and take your own looks at it. Because once again, we encourage you to don't just take our words for things. Go look on your own, form your own opinion, form your own voice. So once again, there will be links provided for as many as we can. Also, we will be providing a link to access the music you heard today if you liked it. Show support for the artists that have kindly lent us their music for today's episode. So make sure you go and check that out. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, also, as we go on, we're going to be looking for more artists that are coming up. So if you want to have your music heard, want a little free advertising, because we love doing that, contact me, and we'll see what we can do. See if we can get you out there. And also people who are listening who, find our conversations interesting and would possibly like to discuss some things. Also, contact us. We will be happy to give you a voice, let you, get your voice out there. This podcast is all about getting our voices heard and letting other people's voices be heard, whether it be music, politics, sex, you name it. Mm-hmm. We're all about getting people out there. So if you are looking to get out there, please contact us and we will try to do our best to, work something out, that you express. But if that is everything, we are going to bid you a wonderful evening. We hope you enjoyed this show. We definitely enjoyed it. There were things we were very passionate about. And hopefully you'll tune in next week for our next show. And if that is it, I bid you good night and good week. Esme?
Good night, y'all.
And with that, we are out.
But there are these things that matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.